5 years ago, a tragic event cost the lives of millions. Overwhelmed by guilt for the part he played in the destruction, he was driven mad. He became an agent of chaos, an enemy of peace and security, but no longer. The leader of the insurgency will pay for his crimes.
Oh, I don't like this.
At 6 p.m. local time, Batman will be executed at Stryker's Island. May Rao have mercy on his soul.
Hello everybody, this is NerdGasm. I've mentioned on my channel before that I've never been a big fan of fighting games. I grew up playing a bit of Tekken on the original PlayStation, but I was never able to get into the genre completely, even with well-established franchises like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. They're too fast-paced for me, involve too many specific button combinations with combos and special attacks, have limited playing space with fixed boundaries. They aren't that enjoyable to me. I get their appeal, I understand why they have such loyal fans, but they've just never been my cup of tea personally. That said, there can always be exceptions, and sometimes these exceptions can appear out of the blue, without warning. When 2013's Injustice: Gods Among Us was first announced, I didn't really think anything of it. Another fighting game, a genre I don't enjoy. It's probably gonna be just as bad as Mortal Kombat vs DC Universe. I'm not gonna buy it. But once it was released, and I heard the buzz it created, I had to give it a try. And Injustice: Gods Among Us, despite having so many things working against it in my eyes, managed to become one of the greatest superhero games I've ever played. One of the greatest ever made. Injustice: Gods Among Us was released for the PlayStation 3 in April of 2013, developed by NetherRealm Studios, founded by Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon. Boon was the game director for Mortal Kombat vs DC Universe, when he worked for the now-defunct Midway Games, but felt that game's use of DC characters was constrained by the parameters of the Mortal Kombat franchise. His intention with Injustice was to make it a separate entity, focused entirely on the DC universe by itself, and despite limiting the violence due to the DC Comics license, wanted to push its teen rating in as many ways as possible. The story mode of Injustice would play out using cinematics, unlike the traditional ladder-based arcade style of storytelling many of these games were known for. It was written by several writers at NetherRealm in conjunction with writers at DC Comics, and it shows. The story of Injustice is simply incredible. I don't think many of us were expecting it to be as good as it was. It was better than it had any right to be. In Injustice: Gods Among Us, several of our beloved DC heroes are transported to an alternate universe by an alternate reality Batman. In this reality, Superman was tricked into destroying all of Metropolis, as well as his pregnant wife, Lois Lane, after the Joker sprayed him with a form of Scarecrow's fear gas, laced with kryptonite. Superman believed he was fighting Doomsday, but instead, he was killing the love of his life, who also had a nuclear detonator connected to her heart, and once it stopped, Metropolis went boom. Not a pretty sight. As a result, Superman loses his cool and is driven over the edge. He kills the Joker by punching through his chest, permanently ending his reign of terror, something Batman would never have been able to do himself, with his unwavering moral code. With the Joker dead, Superman vows to protect the world by creating a totalitarian world government called the One Earth regime. He acts as its high counselor and establishes harsh laws that eliminate crime as well as many civil liberties. Any that oppose them, even superheroes, former allies, are either imprisoned or killed. Their choice. Despite a few feeling disdain towards Superman's actions deep down, most of the heroes join up with him because, well, it's fucking Superman. Are you gonna say no to him? I wouldn't. The remaining heroes, few in number, ally themselves with Batman and form the insurgency to oppose Superman and the tyranny of his One Earth regime. Though by the time the heroes from our reality arrive in that one, most of Batman's soldiers have been eliminated. So, sad Batman. Very sad Batman indeed. The plot of Injustice: Gods Among Us is very politically charged and heavy with those themes, but that's what makes it so damn compelling. They managed to tell an interesting story you're fully invested in, and one that makes sense with the gameplay. Having all of these characters, mostly heroes, fighting each other, it works. It also subverts your expectations in every way imaginable. It turns these beloved and admired superheroes we've looked up to for years into some of the most ruthless and unforgiving antagonists you'll ever see. I don't condone violence against women or abuse in any form, but Wonder Woman in this game is a fucking bitch, and you just want to knock some sense into her. She's actually worse in Injustice 2. What a miserable, ignorant, deluded piece of shit. God, I hate her in this game, even more so in the sequel. Injustice has you root for Lex fucking Luthor, a close friend of Superman who is secretly aiding the insurgency. What other DC story has you wishing Lex Luthor killed or seriously injured the Man of Steel, with a kryptonite weapon no less? It's crazy that you think that, but it's a measure of how good the writing is in this game. Kudos to all involved. Superman is such a great villain in Injustice. His motivations, though misguided and in many ways delusional, are somewhat understandable. He wiped out an entire city. He killed his wife and his unborn child due to the insane actions of the Joker, someone who could have been eliminated from the picture time and time again. Grief and loss on such a grand scale like this are incredibly reasonable motivators for what he did and has done, from his point of view at least. Superman's actions in this game are shocking. Many of them are made for shock value. That said, they fuel his character, as well as your anger and rage towards him, just like the anger and rage he feels the more he spirals down out of control. He knows what he has become, and he accepts it at this point. He doesn't give any fucks anymore. Punching Joker in the chest was one thing, crushing Lex Luthor's neck was another, but I think we can all agree the sequence where he kills Shazam was the most disturbing and impactful moment from the entire game. It still gets me even to this day. Not only is it just plain brutal, with Superman freezing his mouth shut and then using his heat vision to melt through his skull, but you need to keep in mind, this is Billy Batson. He's a kid, or at least a young man. He had his whole life ahead of him, and it's cut short by this evil Superman, this corrupt Superman, one that is beyond saving.
Wait, we're wiping out whole cities? Invading worlds and other dimensions?
You have a problem, Billy.
Well, yeah. It's crazy. It's going too far.
Man's world is incapable of self-rule. We will preserve order.
No. There have to be limits. Even on us. Especially on us.
That's enough!
We can't do this. Have you gone nuts? Lois would never want it. Just...
Anyone else?
Some Superman fans feel this game is anti-Superman, and in some ways that means it's kind of bad, I guess. How dare you insult the Man of Steel? He's arguably the greatest superhero of all time. And yeah, it is sort of anti-Superman. None of us can really deny that. However, having Superman evil makes for an amazing story. Who else could it have been to make the gameplay work? All these heroes battling each other. It was the best option on the table. Injustice Gods Among Us isn't just about the One Earth regime Superman either. It features the Superman from our reality too. At the end, our Man of Steel finds a way into that dimension and aids the heroes in stopping his evil counterpart. It's glorious, hopeful. He's a beacon for everyone to look up to and follow. It leads to a lot of epic and beautiful moments. So I would say Injustice is just as pro-Superman as it is anti-Superman, especially in comparison with the sequel, Injustice 2, which I will get to later on down the road. So like I was saying before, fighting games aren't usually my thing, but with Injustice, its story is what hooked me first and foremost. The gameplay always came second. That said, it can be a lot of fun, so there is no issue there. If you're familiar with the fighting genre, then you know all of this kind of stuff by now. Each character has their own set of light, medium, and strong attacks, preset combos, super moves, and even signature character trait abilities that can provide certain boosts or additional ways of dealing damage in a fight. Much like Mortal Kombat and their fatalities, Injustice utilizes a similar feature here, minus the killing of course. As you deal punishment to your opponent, or are on the receiving end of some yourself, You have a super meter that fills up. Each section of it can be activated to enhance your super moves, increasing their damage. If you fill it up all the way, you can use your special attack, which is always so satisfying to perform. Each character is different, and I could watch them all day. The battles in Injustice are hard-hitting. You can interact with certain things in each of the environments, sending your opponent into them, using them to maneuver around your enemy quickly, or simply chuck it at them to do some damage. There are also really cool stage transitions which add to the epic feel of everything. They keep the action going non-stop. My favorites are of course the ones in the Arkham Asylum stage. They feature cameos from countless Batman villains, all based off their appearances in the Batman Arkham games up until that point. In regards to all the fighting, I've heard some people complain that Batman or Green Arrow shouldn't be able to harm characters like Superman, but that's just fucking stupid. It's a game, for crying out loud. Suspend your disbelief, for Christ's sake, just this once. At least the writers gave some sort of explanation for it all, with the durability enhancing pills that strengthen muscles and bones. They didn't have to give us an explanation. They could have just been lazy and said fuck it. We should be thankful we got anything at all. Stop overreacting. Despite not being a fighting game fan, I really enjoyed my time with Injustice: Gods Among Us. There aren't any real glaring issues with it, in my opinion, that knock the game down in any major way. That said, no game is perfect, so let's go through a few of the nitpicks I have personally. For starters, the story features some mini-games that happen from time to time, that usually involve dodging something being thrown at you by an enemy, or having you fire stuff at them to prevent them from reaching you, that sort of thing. Some of them are kind of fun, while others can be a bit annoying. I also think the idea behind them is kind of silly. There is one in particular near the end of the game that has Black Adam throwing cars at the good Superman. It lasts way too long, is drawn out, and because of it, diffuses all the emotion and tension that scene had. By the time the fight actually happened, I didn't really care anymore. There is a lot of replayability with Injustice outside of the main story. You have a battle mode that acts as a form of arcade, where you fight a certain amount of opponents one after the other. There is a classic one which plays out how you would expect, but some have unique modifiers like keeping the same health meter between each battle, or even taking on the entire roster of Injustice in one big endurance round. There are over 200 Star Labs missions that can be attempted that are small little scenarios and challenges for each character. They consist of mini-games and battles and slight platforming, a huge range of different things, and even feature some cameos from other DC characters in the background. There are 10 missions for each character, 3 stars to earn in each, but I didn't find myself playing it a whole lot. They felt really gimmicky and there isn't much incentive to beating them all, apart from unlocking a few costumes if you get all 3 stars for certain characters, which can be really difficult in some of these missions. Because I'm not a huge fan of this genre of gaming, I didn't really make use of the battle mode or Star Labs missions in Injustice, so I think despite its replayability in areas, a lot of it was lost on me. I only played this game, and play it now, for the story, or to have a few quick battles, that's it. You can hate on me for that all you want, but again, I'm not a fan of fighting games. Injustice is one of the very few exceptions out there, and even then, I can only enjoy it in spurts, unless I'm playing the story of course, cause that kicks ass. Injustice: Gods Among Us was a big surprise. It was a lot better than most of us probably thought it would be. I have some complaints with it, but they are nitpicks for the most part, because this game is pretty damn incredible. I stand by what I said at the beginning. It's still one of the best superhero games ever made. It flipped the DC universe on its head in such a big way, and provided us with a lot of memorable moments that will stay with us forever. Yeah, I'm not a huge fighting game fan, which influenced my enjoyment of this game somewhat, but I still had a blast playing it, and still do, even to this day, so it did something right. This has been NerdGasm. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this review, and if you enjoy my channel, enjoy videos like these and want to see more of them, help me out by subscribing, sharing them to anyone you know who might get something out of them, and if you can, become a patron over on patreon.com/channel NerdGasm. Any bit helps in keeping the YouTube dream alive, and this channel's content alive. Becoming a patron also allows you to participate in monthly polls to determine future comic and game reviews I do on the channel, so if there's a DC game you want me to look at some point, or even a Marvel one, think about becoming a patron. Every vote counts. Thanks again for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video. Take care, stay safe, and long live your inner nerd.